Hello and welcome back to another Rush Duel Links video. Today we have some brand new leaks to go over. Those leaks specifically being skill leaks that do look quite interesting. So although obviously we can go left to right, we're actually going to start at the other end and start with attribute fusion skills dark, light, earth and fire. Now I assume this is 4 different skills, one for dark, one for light, one for earth, one for fire. We don't know where water and wind have disappeared to, but this skill is interesting. So you can only fusion summon once during this duel. So that is quite the restriction. So this is going to be a fusion skill that locks us into only fusion summoning once. So this is going to be kind of a fusion as an afterthought, I guess. So requirement, reveal 1 attribute, so I guess dark, light, earth or fire, fusion material monster in your extra deck that lists as fusion material 1 face-up card on your field. So I guess, for example, if we have Dragius Star on our extra, we can reveal that. Then if we have a Dragius on our field, we can get the rest of this effect, which is change the original attack of one of those fusion materials to 1600. Then you can add 1 fusion from outside your deck to your hand, and if you do, you cannot use this skill for the rest of the duel. So basically, we can use this to get a fusion into our hand. Now, how is that going to be useful? Well, we could just discard that. So if we have any effect that requires a discard or the discard of a spell card, we could use that, similar to something like Hammer Crush or one of the Ether skills, which do require us to discard a spell or trap card. So there is that potential, but also we could just use this to get fusion to our hand and perform a fusion summon. So during my stream today, someone did point out that what you could do is just play aggro, so just Dragius good stuff pile, then just play a couple of copies of the dragon in with your already 3 copies of Dragius. Then if you just so happen to get them both at the same time, bam, we can go into a Dragius Star just one off, which can close out the game, which actually could be pretty good. There's not really much else going on with this skill. It's going to be useful if you want a way to search fusion, or in this case, I guess just create a fusion, so it's not actually going to be from your deck. So you don't have to run fusion as a brick, and your deck isn't going to be fusion summoning as its main gimmick. So this could just be an extra little thing, but it's interesting. I've been saying for a long while that I was hoping we were going to get a generic skill that could search fusion for fusion decks that just won't have a skill, because in my opinion, I don't think that Konami's going to go as a skill for every single fusion deck. But where this only allows us to fusion summon once, that means we can't really use this in fusion decks. We're going to use this in decks that have a fusion but aren't really fusion decks, but could be interesting to try some stuff out with. The next skill we're going to take a look at is the GAVIN skill. The requirement can be activated if all of the monsters in your constructed deck are fairies/warrior monsters that are not fire/water. So that's quite an interesting restriction. It's a little bit harsh of a restriction, but when we start looking at the boss monsters we could potentially be getting, it will become apparent as to why. But we have the multi-choice effect to either change the attack of up to 2 face-up monsters you control with 0 attack to be 100 more than their defense until the end of your opponent's turn. So if we had, let's say, a 0 attack 2000 defense monster, we could then boost that monster to a 2100 attack, which is okay. Then we can set 1 fusion from your deck or graveyard to your field. So this is a similar effect that we've seen with the Dragon fusion skill and the Spellcaster fusion skill, where we can set fusion from deck or graveyard, so we actually have to run the 1 copy. Now, the one negative here is we cannot get that search unless we have a face-up 0 attack position monster, because we don't get the second part of this effect unless we activate the first part. So that is one minor restriction. And the other effect is that we can change the defense of 1 face-up monster your opponent controls to 800 until the end of this turn. So this is only going to be relevant if we have the ability to either flip one of their guys face up, or if we have the ability to change a face-up attack position monster to face-up defense position, which there are a couple of different options that we have in the game now, and a couple of cards that we could get to come out to also facilitate this. So what potentially could we be getting? Well, this is a GAVIN skill that locks us to Fairy Warriors and searches fusion, so I think it's pretty safe to say we're going to be getting some of his fusions. Now, GAVIN's fusions typically all use Needlecree, the Celestial Seamstress, as his normal monster fusion material, so pretty much all of them are going to use this card. This is just a 0 attack, 1400 defense, level 1, very normal monster. It's basically fine. Now, this also will let us trigger the skill, so if we normal summon this card, we can boost its attack to 1500 till the end of the turn, and we get that fusion search, which is pretty good. But what fusion monsters do we think we're going to be making? So GAVIN's first fusion monster is quite notorious, and that is Yamiterasu, the Divine Ruler. So this is a really cool boss monster. First off, its stats are really nice, 3000 attack, 3000 defense. This is made using Yami Ruler, the Dark Delayer, as well as our Needlecree, the Celestial Seamstress, but it's made using Yami Ruler, and Yami Ruler is known for being a bit of a floodgate, and this guy kind of is cut from the same cloth. So we can send the top card of our deck to the graveyard, then until the end of your opponent's next turn, while this card is face up, it gains 500 attack. Okay, so lingering attack boost goes up to 35, that's kind of hard to out. Also, neither player can special summon level 9 or lower monsters in face up attack position. So we can still summon in face up defense position, so that's fine. If we want to make a fusion monster, we still can, it just can't be in attack position. This won't stop maximums, because maximums can't be in defense, and it's higher than level 9. It also won't stop level 10 fusion monsters, so Cyber End Dragon can still come out easy. But this will stop a lot of other cards, and this can be a bit frustrating if you're playing specifically a fusion deck that doesn't have any ways to play around this. So I guess Metarion, Spellcaster Fusion, and Dragon Fusion are the three that are going to be hurt the worst by this. But Yamiterasu is not this unbeatable boss monster. It still does lose to a lot of things. It loses to Mirror Innovator, it will lose to any maximum, it loses to TSA. There are a lot of ways to get rid of this card. The problem comes, if he's on the field for one turn, your opponent doesn't get to special summon for a turn. But then if he's unable to be outed on that second turn, well, there's another turn where you're not special summoning in attack mode, and it just keeps going and going and going until this guy's finally dealt with. So he can be quite frustrating to play against, and that's why he is very, very strong. His other effect is also we can change the battle position of a monster. So if a monster has too much attack, we can change it to defense and attack over it, and if a monster is face down defense or just defensive in general, we can change it to attack and attack over it and get damage in. So it's just a really, really good effect. Notably as well, this is one of the ways that we could activate our skill, which, if we do recall, we can change the defense of one face-up monster your opponent controls to 800 until the end of this turn. Now, there isn't really a need to do this, but this is a way to have a face-up defense position monster in your opponent's field, so I thought it was worth mentioning. Another monster we could potentially get, but is a lot less likely, because this is a much more modern card, is Kimiterasu, the Divine Luna. So this is made using Kimirula, and for anyone who doesn't remember, Kimirula is the nice man on the horse who can attack directly if all of your opponent's monsters are in defense position. So we can send the top card of our deck to the graveyard, and then up to 2 face-up monsters on your field can attack directly this turn. Now that includes itself, so it would be able to attack directly for 3,000, and then one of our other monsters could also attack directly, which is pretty bonkers. So I don't think we're going to get this card. I think it would maybe be a little bit too good for right now, but there is potential, right? So the other effect is this card gains 1,000 attack until the end of your opponent's next turn. Just a lingering attack boost is quite nice, goes up to 4,000, reasonably strong. So another monster we could get is Semiterasu, the Divine Ruler. And I think if we're not going to get Yamiterasu, Semiterasu is the next most likely, made using Semi-Ruler, the Dark Summoner. And again, for those people who've forgotten, he's the one that you can discard a card from your hand and then summon out a 0 attack monster from your hand to the field, and then that monster gains attack equal to its current defense until the end of the turn. Not super useful right now, but could be pretty good in the future. So his multi-choice effect, special summon one level 8 or lower warrior or fairy type monster from your graveyard face up to your field. Now, notably, we will have a level 8 or lower warrior in the graveyard, namely Semi-Ruler, when we make this guy, so we'll always have a 2,500 body that we can just get to the board. That's already a pretty good effect. The other effect is we can shuffle monsters from your opponent's graveyard into the deck up to the number of monsters with 0 attack in your graveyard. Not so useful now, but it's pretty good against, stopping TSA. It's pretty good if your opponent has Monster Reincarnation to get stuff out of their graveyard, or if they have machines or Mirror Innovator, this also does stop that. So there is still some uses even now. So the next card we're going to talk about is Valkyrian Cut Pastry. So if you have no other monsters on your field, place 1 card from your hand on the bottom of the deck to special summon a fairy type monster with 0 attack from your graveyard face up to your field. So this is an okay card, right? Basically we can convert 1 card in our hand into a 0 attack fairy monster from our graveyard. The most notable one is going to be Needlecree, the Celestial Seamstress. And this does make sense, their names are very similar, they're clearly designed to play together. But on top of that, there is also a fusion between the two called Hagoromo, the Cloudal Handling Celestial Seamstress. Now, I don't think we're going to get this card. And one, it doesn't quite fit right now with the way the meta is, as well as the fact this does refer to a card that I do not think we're going to be getting yet because I think it would be a bit early. But I thought we'd mention this anyway because if we are getting the Needlecree, the Celestial Seamstress, we might as well mention its unique fusion. So what does this card do? 2,000 attack, 2,500 defense. Not too bad considering it's made using 2 low-level monsters. We can pay 300 life points to add a level 4 or lower warrior or fairy monster from your graveyard to your hand. Then you can set 1 fusion or divine transformation from your graveyard to your spell and trap zone. So the way this is intended to be played is that we will summon it out, use its effect to grab back half of its material, namely Needlecree the Celestial Seamstress. Then we can get our fusion or divine transformation. Now ideally it's going to be divine transformation. So what is Divine Transformation? So Divine Transformation is fusion summon a light attribute monster by sending monsters from your field to the graveyard as material, including a fairy type monster. So, okay, so this is just fusion, but a bit worse so far. If you fusion summon a celestial warrior type monster, however, you can also use monsters from your hand. So this is polymerization as long as we're making a celestial warrior, so that easily gets us into any of our bosses without having to tribute them out. And that's why I don't think we're going to get this card, because again, it does mention Divine Transformation, and I don't think we're going to get Divine Transformation yet. But if we did, just hypothetically, this would be a really, really good way to get your bosses out a little bit easier. So typically, if we want to, for example, get out our Yamitarasu, we would have to normal summon, tribute both to summon out Yami Ruler. Then normal summon our Needlecree, and then activate fusion, bam, 5-card combo, we get a Yamitarasu. However, if we were to make Hagoromo, we would need Valkyrian Cut Pastry, Needlecree, and fusion, so that's 3 cards. Then using its effect, we can add that Needlecree back to our hand, and we also get to get a Divine Transformation from our graveyard. So that's already basically +2'd us, we've only used 1 card so far. Now we can activate Divine Transformation, give up the Needlecree we've just put back in our hand, as well as one of our boss monsters, so in this case, Yami Ruler, and bam, we have our fusion monster. So for only 4 cards, we'd get out both a 2000, 2500, as well as our big boss monster, Yamitarasu, and we'd still have 1 card left over. And that is why Hagoromo is so good, and why Divine Transformation is so good, and why I don't think we're going to be getting these cards, but I thought I would mention them, as it does give us something to look forward to. Next up, I guess we'll mention Urashima Sage, because this card technically does work with this skill. It has got 0 attack, which means we can use the skill on this card to boost its attack up to 1900. As well as the fact we can change this from attack to defense position to change 1 attack position monster on your opponent's field to face up defense position, and if you do, it loses 600 defense till the end of this turn. So that's pretty okay, because then we could use the skill to change the defense of that monster to 800. This is a way just to get something into defense, and then make its defense 800, which is like an okay little combo. Realistically, it's not very good. I'm not expecting anyone to actually do this, but it made sense to talk about it since it's kind of relevant to what the skill does. But one card I do think there is actually some potential we get that would work unbelievably well with the skill is Kime Luna the Dark Shifter. The skill almost seems like it is made to be used with Kime Luna, so I think there is actually quite a high probability we get this card. So this is a level 8 monster with 0 attack, and some people are already scratching their heads saying that sounds awful, but it does have 2500 defense, which is quite good. But its effect is we can change the battle positions of up to 2 monsters on your opponent's field. Attack becomes face-up defense, and defense becomes face-up attack. So already we can make high attack monsters go to defense so we can attack over them, or we can make defense position monsters go to attack mode so we can attack over them and get to our opponent's life points. Then if we change the battle position by this effect, you can change the battle position of 1 face-up monster on your field. So almost always we will use that on itself to change our now attack mode 0 attack monster to defense mode where it has that nice 2500 buff. So really good card. Now this was better in my opinion in the OCG because we would have basically room for 7 bosses. Realistically, we're not really playing more than 5 in Duel Links, so fitting this in might be a bit more difficult. So you probably won't play this in kind of just a good stuff pile, but it's still a really good card. Especially if we use the skill, because our skill would bump Kime Luna's attack up to 2600, which is actually very relevant, as well as allow us to search out our fusion. Now, why would searching out fusion be particularly good? Well, because Kime Luna does have its own fusion in Kimitarasu the Rising Luna, and this card is really good. First off, 2500 attack, it's a little bit low for this type of card, but it does have 3000 defense. So we can either add 1 monster with 0 attack from our graveyard to our hand. So again, because we've already made this, we would either have the Kime Luna itself, which is a great card to have back in our hand, or Needlecree if we just need an extra body to normal summon, so already pretty good. Its other effect is we can destroy up to 2 defense position monsters on the opponent's field. So we use Kime Luna, we summon it out, change it to defense, change 2 of our opponent's monsters to defense, then fuse it off into Kimitarasu and pop both of those monsters, which is really strong. Now, are we going to get Kimitarasu? I don't know. There is a chance we could. I think there's a better chance we just get Kime Luna, but there is also a small chance we get Kimitarasu along with it. But again, this is all just speculation based on what we know so far. One other small thing to note is that Kime Luna does pair quite nicely with Semi-Ruler the Divine Summoner, because again it is a 0 attack monster. So we go tribute 2 monsters, summon out the Semi-Ruler, discard a card, special Kime Luna from our hand, and Kime Luna goes up to 2500 attack, which is not bad. So that is kind of it for us talking about the GAVIN skill. Now we're going to talk about the Roman skill, which is quite interesting. So it can be activated if the only monsters in your constructed deck with 1400 or more attack are dragon/psychic. So that is a very, very curious restriction, because there aren't many decks that are going to be playing dragon and psychic monsters. I'm getting flashbacks back to the original aggro list where we would just play Dragius alongside Prima. But the effect is we can make one face-up level 7 fire monster with 2300 or less attack gain 900 attack until the end of this turn. Okay, 900 boost. Neither player can activate that monster's effect on the field this turn. So we're going to turn off our monster's effect. That's already very strange. So which monsters can we actually use this with? Well, the first one is Shock Dragon. And Shock Dragon is pretty cool, but we won't be able to use its effect the turn we boost its attack, so we could just make Shock Dragon a 2500, which I guess is fine, but that's nothing particularly special. We could also use it with Volcano Attack Dragon, which again goes up to 32, which is a nice number, but it doesn't have an effect not to use. I'm not sure if this is the intended use. The next one would be Folder Blitz, which I guess again is fine. This will also reach that 3200 attack. Won't be able to use its effect again. There's only one other card that this could be used with, and it's a card that isn't released yet, called Sports Dragon Closer. And this is the card I think this skill is meant to be referencing. So if your opponent has an attack position level 9 or lower monster on their field, we can pay 3000 life points. So half our points. This card gains 2000 attack till the end of this turn. If your opponent has 8 or more monsters in their graveyard, this card cannot be destroyed by trap cards. That's an okay effect. Gaining 2000 attack is quite nice. Not being able to be destroyed by traps is okay. It's only a 2200 body most of the time. And don't forget, if we do boost it by that 900, we then cannot boost it by that 2000. So it's a bit wonky. But you're probably still asking yourselves, why does this skill restrict us to dragons and psychics? That's a bit weird. Well, there was actually an episode in the anime where our psychic duelist Romin does use some of Luke's Sports Dragon cards, as we can see down here. She did use Sports Dragon Closer, Sports Dragon Pitcher, and Sports Dragon Slugger. So I think this is a reference to this duel. Now the duel that she does play these cards is against Yugioh, so this might be a bit of a stretch, but I like to think this might mean we're getting Yuka as a playable character hopefully soon. I mean, again, this is a bit of a stretch, but this skill is a direct reference to this one duel, and in this duel she does play against Yuka, and Yuka's deck is actually really, really interesting, so I just want to go over some of those cards. The first things first, Gagaga Outfielder. And you might be thinking, okay, this looks familiar. For anyone that doesn't know, Yuka plays a baseball deck that is basically parodies of Yuma's deck from Zexal or Zale, depending how you want to say it. So this is Gagaga Outfielder. There's nothing really to note about this, except it has a 400 defense vanilla Fire Warrior. There's another one in Achachakacha, again 1400 attack, and then Zuba Babata, which has 1500 attack. Then we'll get to the bosses. So the first one is Player 39 Home Run Hitter. So 2500 attack is already really good. If a face-up Feather Spirit Stadium is on the field, send 2 face-up level 4 fire attribute monsters from your field to the graveyard. This card gains 2500 attack at the end of this turn. This turn you can only attack with this card. So this is an okay finisher, but worst case scenario, this is just a 2500 beater that does work with some of our other cards that we'll talk about in a minute. So just having this as a 2500 beater is fine, but occasionally we can boost up to 5000 and try and close a game with it. The next card we're going to talk about is the Feather Spirit Stadium itself. While this card is face up in the field zone, face up fire attribute monsters on your field gain 400 attack during your turn only, and face up fire attribute monsters on your opponent's field gain 400 attack during their turn only. So just a 400 boost that doesn't work on our opponent's turn. Unless you're in the mirror or your opponent's playing a fire deck, the other part of this effect isn't really going to matter. The point is we get 400 attack during our turn, which is pretty good. That means our 15s become 19, which is quite nice for a level 4, and our boss monsters become 29, which is also pretty good. Then there's Dododo Second. If a face-up Feather Spirit Stadium is on the field, we can pay 500 life points. This turn, this face-up card can be treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of a fire attribute monster in attack position, which again is pretty good. We can use this to get out our boss monsters. Then there is Go 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 Umpire. We can shuffle 1 Featherous Spirit Stadium from our graveyard into the deck to special summon a fire attribute normal monster with 400 defense. Now notably, all the normal monsters we looked at earlier do meet this requirement. Face up to our field. This turn, you can only attack with fire monsters, which is fine. We'd only be attacking the fire monsters anyway. Then we'll take a look at a spell card, Bobbleheader. We can add up to 2 Feather Spirit Stadium and or tag up Magic Sacrifice Force from your graveyard to your hand. So we already know what Stadium is, but what is this tag up magic? Well, tag up Magic Sacrifice Force is a bit weird. We can send 1 face up fire attribute monster from your field to the graveyard to special summon a level 8 fire attribute monster from your hand face up to your field. So if we just stop reading there for now, this basically means this is like having an extra normal summon, right? Because we would normal summon a monster, then use tag up, then summon out the boss from our hand, which is basically the same as normal summon tribute to get the guy out. But if we sent a level 8 monster to the graveyard to meet the requirement, so if we sent the level 8 to the graveyard, we can destroy a spell trap on your opponent's field, which means this can be used to pop back row, which can be pretty good, but it is actually quite a heavy cost to get that back row pop. Then we'll talk about player 99 Grand Slam Dragon. We can shuffle 3 fire attribute monsters from our graveyard into the deck to special summon a player 39 home run hitter from your graveyard face up to your field. Then this card gains 2000 attack until the end of this turn. So this is really good. We can shuffle some cards back into our deck, we get a 2500 beta onto the field, and then this guy becomes 4000 attack, which is really, really good. Just having that much attack on the board so easily is always going to be really, really powerful. Then there is Captain 39 Home Plate Pinch Hitter. So we can shuffle 3 level 4 fire attribute monsters from our graveyard into the deck. This card gains 1500 attack, so it becomes 4000 attack, which is quite a lot. Then if your life points are 1000 or lower, you can make one face-up monster on your opponent's field lose 3000 attack until the end of this turn, which is really good. Most of the time it's going to put a monster's attack down to 0, so your 4000 attack monster can attack into their 0 monster and get in for 4000 damage, which is a ton. Then we'll talk about a consistency card. This is Heavy Roller. I wouldn't expect to get this card because we haven't got any of the other consistency cards yet, and I think Konami is deliberately avoiding giving us these. But we can send 1 fire attribute monster from your hand to the graveyard to draw a card. Then if there is a face-up field spell on the field, we can draw 1 additional card. It's quite nice filtering. And then more cards I don't think we would get. Guts. When a monster on your field is destroyed by an opponent's card effect. Now this has to be a card effect. Special summon a fire attribute monster from your graveyard to your field in face-up defense position. Then if we summoned player 39 home run hitter, so our 2500 beta, or Grand Slam Dragon, which is our 2000 beta, by this effect, we can destroy 1 monster on your opponent's field. Realistically, we're not going to get this card. Konami hasn't given us any of the traps that special summon monsters so far. They haven't given us any traps that pop monsters except for legends, and this has such a specific requirement in being destroyed by a card effect that it wouldn't work most of the time anyway. And then the last one, Requesting 9. When a monster on your field is destroyed by an opponent's attack, so this can happen quite a lot, gain 900 life points. That's quite nice. Then if we have 9 or more fire attribute monsters in your graveyard, we can special summon Home Run Hitter or Grand Slam Dragon from your graveyard once again. We haven't got any of the traps that special summon monsters, so I don't think we get these. Now again, I don't think we're super likely to get any of these baseball cards, but I thought I would mention them because they are sort of being referenced with the new Roman skill, and I would really, really like to see these cards come to Duel Links because 1, they're really fun, they're really cool, and they were actually semi-competitive in the OCG. These cards did see a few tournament wins, and they were quite competent, so I'd really like to see them come to Duel Links. But that is it for the leaks. That's it for our fun little bit of speculation. Hopefully we'll get some of the cards that I predicted, hopefully they'll be really, really good, and hopefully we won't get too many new cards because my gems have still not recovered from the Go Rush World launch. But thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.